I never thought I'd be writing something like this. Honestly, I thought I knew my wife, Lisa. We'd been married for about 8 years, and for the most part, things seemed normal, busy work weeks, the occasional argument, but nothing that seemed out of the ordinary. We had a pretty decent life, or so I thought. Our dog, Max, was getting old, and lately he'd been sick. That was tough, yeah. Seeing Max struggle was heartbreaking, but I tried to stay strong for Lisa. She was always the bitchy one, sharp-tongued, quick to dismiss my concerns and prone to blowing things out of proportion. Still, I loved her, or at least I thought I did. The first sign something was off came about 2 weeks ago. I started noticing little things that shouldn't have mattered but did. Lisa's phone was always hidden, even when she was in the bathroom. She'd keep her phone face down on the nightstand at night, and if I tried to look at her screen, she'd go into this rage, accusing me of spying. It was annoying, sure, but I brushed it off. Then she started working late more often. I'd come home from work and she'd already be in bed, or she'd be out with her friends. She'd snap at me when I asked where she'd been, saying I was just paranoid. Still, I felt weird about it, like I was missing something. One afternoon, I decided to surprise her and come home early from work. Max was doing worse, and I wanted to be there when she got back from her supposed girls' night. I pulled into the driveway and saw her car parked out front. Fine. I walked inside, expecting her to be in the kitchen or watching TV. But I heard something strange from the bedroom, someone crying or maybe talking softly. My heart skipped a beat. I peeked in, and what I saw made my blood run cold. There she was, Lisa, in bed with a guy I'd never seen before. They weren't just talking, they were touching, kissing, and honestly it looked like they were about to fuck. This wasn't just some one-night stand either. They looked pretty comfortable with each other, like they knew they shouldn't be caught but didn't care. I froze in the doorway, stunned. My mind raced. Who was this guy? How long had this been going on? How could she do this to me? I'd always been there for her, always tried to be a good husband, and I never suspected she'd cheat. I mean, I knew she was bitchy and sometimes a little selfish, but I thought she was faithful. Turns out she's just good at hiding her true colors. I didn't say a word at first. I just backed out slowly, trying to process what I'd just seen. I didn't want to cry or yell. No, I just wanted to understand what the hell was going on. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying everything, trying to make sense of it. I found myself feeling numb, then angry, then just devastated. How could she lie to my face for so long? And the worst part, I wasn't even mad about the cheating at first. I was just heartbroken that I'd been so blind, so naive. Lisa has always been a bitch, sure, but I never thought she'd do something like this. Seeing her with that guy, I realized I didn't even matter anymore. Max's illness was overshadowed by this betrayal. I'd lost my wife, my trust, and honestly, a part of myself that I didn't know I had. The grief over Max's condition was almost easier to deal with because at least that was real and tangible. The betrayal, that cut deeper than I ever expected. The days following that discovery were a blur. I couldn't focus at work, couldn't sleep, and every time I looked at Lisa, I saw her differently, the woman I'd married, the woman I thought I knew. But now, I just saw someone who lied and cheated behind my back. Part of me wanted to confront her right then, yell, accuse, tear her apart. But another part, more cautious, perhaps even scared, knew I had to gather my thoughts first. I wanted proof, something concrete, before I blew everything up. So I started digging. It was easy enough. Her phone was always a goldmine of lies, hidden messages, secret contacts I'd never seen before. I found texts, flirtatious and way too intimate. There were photos, nudity, and all kinds of things she never would have done if she still loved me. It hurt like hell, but I kept my cool. I wanted to be sure, wanted to see just how deep this thing went. One night, I even followed her when she went out. She claimed she was meeting friends, but I didn't buy it. I tailed her to this tiny, dingy motel on the outskirts of town. She was with him, no doubt about it. The worst part, she wasn't even trying to hide it anymore. She looked happy, relaxed, like she was finally doing what she wanted. That's when I knew I had to confront her. I couldn't keep pretending like everything was fine. The betrayal cut too deep and I needed closure. The next day I waited until she came home and I asked her to sit down. I didn't yell. I just laid out the evidence, texts, the photos, the fact that I knew she'd been cheating on me with that veterinarian, Dr. Collins. She looked surprised at first, then annoyed, then angry. She tried to deny it, of course. Said I was crazy, that I was imagining things, that I was paranoid. She called me a jealous idiot who was ruining everything because I didn't trust her. That's typical Lisa. She's so good at lying, twisting words, making herself look innocent. But I wasn't buying it anymore. I told her I saw everything, that I wasn't going to be played for fool anymore. Her reaction. Oh, it was classic. She sneered, called me insecure and jealous, said I was overreacting. She claimed I was imagining things, that Dr. Collins was just a friend, that I was just making up stupid stories because I was insecure about Max's health and the upcoming vet visits. She kept saying she loved me, that she'd never cheat, and that I was just projecting because I was worried about Max. I wanted to believe her, I really did. But I couldn't. I knew better. I saw the truth in her eyes, the guilt, the shame, the way her voice cracked when she said, "I love you." It was all bullshit. That night I didn't sleep again. I kept staring at the ceiling, replaying the conversation, feeling a strange mixture of rage and despair. I'd always been a pretty patient guy, but this was next level. How could she lie so easily? How could she betray us like that? Max was dying and she was out cheating on us, like it was nothing. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut, like the ground had opened beneath me. My trust was shattered and I knew from that moment that everything in my life was about to change. I didn't want to be married to a liar, and I didn't want to stay in a relationship where I was constantly suspicious. The worst part, honestly, I didn't even know if I still wanted her anymore. The woman I married was gone, replaced by someone who could do this. And as much as I'd like to say I wanted to save what we had, deep down, I knew I was at a crossroads. The betrayal was too deep, but part of me still hoped I could fix it. Or maybe I just wanted to believe there was some way back. For now, though, I just sat there, cold and broken, trying to figure out what the hell I was supposed to do next. After I confronted Lisa, the house felt even colder than before. She was angry, defensive, and still trying to spin her bullshit about how innocent her friendship with Dr. Collins was. She kept saying I was overreacting, that I was insecure, that Max's illness was making me paranoid. But I wasn't buying her lies anymore. I saw her for what she really was, a woman who could lie straight to my face and cheat behind my back without a second thought. And honestly, it made me feel sick. I wondered how I hadn't seen it sooner, how I'd been so blind to her bitchy, manipulative side all along. That night, I decided to do something I'd never done before. I went through her phone again, just to be sure. I wasn't planning anything crazy. I just needed clarity. I scrolled through her messages, her social media, her photos, and what I found made my stomach turn. There were more messages with Dr. Collins, flirty, suggestive, and explicit. They'd been talking about their meetings, their secret moments, even planning to see each other outside of the vet's office. She'd lied to me about everything. She'd claimed I was imagining things, that I was just insecure. But the proof was staring me right in the face. It was like a punch in the gut, but I felt strangely numb. I couldn't keep this inside anymore. I decided I'd have to do something about it, something to make her pay for what she'd done. But I wasn't just going to storm out or throw a fit. No, I wanted her to see that I wasn't the fool she thought I was. I started planning my revenge, though I didn't have a clear idea of what that would look like yet. I just knew I had to do something that would hit her where it hurt, something that would make her regret ever crossing me. I wasn't one to take betrayal lightly, and I wasn't about to let her get away with it. The first step was gathering more evidence. I hired a private investigator, something I'd never thought I'd do but felt I had to. I wanted to catch her in the act if she continued her affair. And sure enough, within a few days, he returned with pictures. Lisa and Dr. Collins were still seeing each other, meeting up late at night, sharing intimate moments that couldn't be mistaken. The photos made everything so real, so undeniable. It wasn't just an affair. It was a full-blown betrayal, happening right under my nose, behind my back, while I was at home worrying about Max and trying to hold everything together. That's when I knew I had to confront her again. But this time, I wasn't going to do it calmly. I was furious, so furious I could barely breathe. I called her at work and told her to come home immediately. When she arrived, I was waiting for her in the living room, folder of evidence in hand. Her face was a mask of annoyance when she saw me, like she thought I was just being paranoid again. But I didn't care. I laid everything out, photos, texts, everything. Her face turned red with rage, but I saw something else, fear. She knew she'd been caught, and she wasn't sure how to talk her way out of it this time. And true to form, Lisa started spinning her lies. She told me I was crazy, that it was all a misunderstanding, that Dr. Collins was just a friend, and I had no right to be angry. That she was only with him because I was neglecting her, because I was so obsessed with Max that I didn't pay attention to her anymore. She said she loved me, that she'd never cheat, that I was just insecure and paranoid. But I knew better now. I saw her for what she really was, someone who had no respect for our marriage, for me, or for the love we once shared. That confrontation left me exhausted. I didn't even argue back much. I just looked at her, feeling a cold, deep sadness settle over me. The woman I married was gone, replaced by someone who didn't care about honesty or loyalty. I felt betrayed, angry, and somehow also hurt, more than I thought possible. I realized that I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay, not anymore. The truth was out, and whatever was left of us now was fragile and broken. I knew I had to decide what to do next, but I was already starting to feel like I'd lost everything I ever cared about. The days that followed that confrontation were some of the worst I've ever experienced. Every time I looked at her, I saw the lies, the deceit, the person I thought I knew but clearly didn't. Lisa tried to play the victim, said I was overreacting, that I was just jealous and insecure. She threw in some tears, a few fake apologies, and kept insisting she loved me, that it was just a mistake, a lapse in judgment. But I wasn't buying it. I knew her better than that, or at least I thought I did. The woman who once would have been devastated if I even looked at another woman had apparently turned into someone cold and manipulative. I felt like I was drowning in betrayal. My instincts told me to leave, to get out of the house, to walk away and never look back. But part of me wanted to do something more, something that would make her regret ever crossing me. I couldn't just walk away like a coward. No, I needed to make her understand what she'd lost, what she'd thrown away for some fleeting thrill with Dr. Collins. I started planning my next move, trying to figure out how to make her see the damage she'd done, not just to me but to everything we'd built together. Meanwhile, Max was still hanging on, his health failing more each day. Honestly, I felt guilty about that, about everything. Max was the only thing that kept me rooted, the only pure thing left in all this chaos. When I saw him struggling to get up, I felt a deep ache in my chest. My wife's affair was bad enough, but watching our loyal dog suffer, knowing I'd never get that time back, made everything worse. Losing Max was inevitable. I knew that, but I still couldn't bring myself to accept it. It felt like everything was falling apart and I was powerless to stop it. One evening, I decided I'd had enough of the silence, the lies, the pretending. I sat Lisa down and told her I was leaving her, not just the house. I told her I couldn't trust her anymore, that I needed space to think. She got angry, yelled, called me all sorts of names: paranoid, insecure, jealous, a terrible husband. I didn't care. I just wanted her out of my life, at least for a little while. I needed to clear my head and figure out what I was going to do about all this mess. I felt like I was losing my mind, but I knew I had to hold it together. For Max, for myself, for the tiny hope that maybe, just maybe, I could salvage some shred of dignity. That night I stayed at a friend's house. Sleep was impossible. All I could think about was her, the betrayal, the lies, the years I wasted trusting her. The worst part, I still loved her deeply, painfully, and that made everything so much worse. How could someone I loved so much do this to me? How could she lie so effortlessly, deceive me, and then expect me to just accept it? I felt like I'd been punched in the gut so many times, I didn't know if I'd ever recover. The house was silent without Max's little snore in the corner, and I felt like I was losing my best friend too. All I could do was sit there, staring into the darkness, trying to process the wreckage of my life and the realization that my marriage was probably over, broken beyond repair. The next morning, I woke up feeling like I'd been run over by a truck. The weight of everything hit me hard. Max's worsening condition, Lisa's betrayal, the overwhelming sense that I'd lost control of my own life. I kept replaying that moment when I saw her with Dr. Collins, the way her face lit up, the intimacy they shared. It wasn't just about cheating. It was about her choosing someone else over us, over me and Max. That realization burned in my chest like acid. I couldn't ignore the fact that she had willingly replaced the trust we built over years with some reckless fling. I knew I couldn't stay passive anymore. I had to act, not out of revenge alone, but because I had to protect what little dignity I had left. I started making plans, legal, emotional, practical. I contacted a lawyer first thing. I wasn't planning to fight for her or try to save what was already broken. I just wanted to make sure I protected myself and Max, and that I got some kind of closure. I also thought about confronting Dr. Collins, but honestly, I didn't want to stoop to that level. If Lisa wanted to keep lying, I'd let her. I'd already seen enough to know that there was no saving this marriage. The trust was shattered, and I wasn't the fool I'd been. Meanwhile, Max was hanging on by a thread. His health was deteriorating fast, and I knew we didn't have much time left. That realization made everything else feel so trivial. All the betrayal, all the lies, they paled in comparison to losing him. I promised myself I'd do right by him, no matter what. That meant making some hard decisions. I felt the weight of everything pressing down on me, but I also found a strange clarity. I couldn't fix Lisa's betrayal, but I could control how I responded. I could choose to walk away, to start fresh, even if it hurt like hell. That afternoon, I sat Lisa down again. I told her I was filing for divorce. I explained that I couldn't be with someone who lied and cheated, especially after what I saw. She tried to sweet-talk me to make me feel guilty, saying I was being unfair, that I was overreacting. But I just looked her in the eyes and said I'd had enough, that I deserved honesty, loyalty, respect, things she clearly didn't want to give anymore. Her face twisted with anger, but I was done. I told her to gather her things and leave. I didn't want her in my house anymore. That moment was brutal. I felt both relieved and devastated at the same time. I was finally taking control of my life, but I was also losing someone I once loved deeply. The house that once felt like a home now felt empty, cold, haunted by memories of what was and what could have been. As I watched her pack her bags, I wondered how I'd fallen so far, how a woman I trusted so completely could turn into a stranger so easily. But deep down, I knew this was the only way forward. I had to let go, not just of Lisa, but of the illusion I'd kept alive, that somehow we could fix this. Because honestly, I didn't see how anymore. All I saw was the wreckage and a future that was somehow less painful than staying in a lie. In the days that followed her leaving, everything felt even emptier. Max passed away peacefully one morning, and I was there with him, holding his paw as he took his last breath. That moment broke me more than anything, more than the betrayal, more than the divorce. Max had been my constant, my silent confidant through all this chaos. His loyalty never wavered, unlike Lisa's. Watching him go made me realize how much I'd lost, but also how much I needed to focus on myself now. I threw myself into the process of healing, even if it was slow. The house stayed quiet, save for the memories that haunted each corner. I sold the place, not because I wanted to forget, but because I knew I needed a fresh start somewhere else. Somewhere I could rebuild my life without the weight of her lies pressing down on me. I moved to a different city, started working on myself, and really took time to understand what I wanted from life. Looking back, I'm not sure I can say I'm fully okay. The betrayal cut so deep, and the trust I once had is gone, but I'm learning to live with it. I've realized that my happiness depends on my ability to move past the pain, to forgive myself for trusting someone who betrayed me, and to accept that sometimes people are just not who they pretend to be. I learned the hard way that love and loyalty can be fleeting, and that sometimes the only person you can truly count on is yourself. What I want others to know is this: don't ignore the signs. Don't brush off your gut instincts. Because when someone shows you who they really are, whether it's their lies, their betrayal, or their selfishness, you'd better believe it. Protect yourself, because no one else will do it for you. And when the time comes to walk away, don't look back. Focus on healing. Focus on what's ahead. I don't regret the pain because it taught me a lot about trust, about strength, about resilience. I'll never forget what I went through, but I'll also never let it define me. I'm still here, still standing, and slowly I'm learning how to trust again. Not just others, but myself. And that's the only thing that truly matters now.